Hello and welcome back to new number ones for the weeks of June the 10th and June the 17th. My name is Corey and you're here with me now. Sorry there was no video last week. I have been going through some various odds and ends, so we're going to get right back on track with a twofer. So the first comic we're going to talk about is from a publisher that we've never featured on the show before, Amp Comics, and this is The Order by the Albán Brothers. So it's written and illustrated by Luis Eugenio Albán and Luis Eduardo Albán. They are identical twin brothers. The Order is a sort of a take on your typical tyrannical emperor has enslaved a system, and our main characters have been separated from their mothers since they were children, who appears to have been some sort of freedom fighter, and they have been forced to work in the coal mines their entire lives. One of the brothers, I believe his name is Radock, has decided he has had enough and he is going to do whatever it takes to find his mother. I will tell you that the art is really interesting, is really dark, and it feels very appropriate for the subject matter. That being said, I feel like the writing was not where it should be. There was a lot of tell, don't show, a lot of very heavy sort of inner monologue pieces of context that were just sort of like laid over repeatedly over and over again, like really driving the nail down into the wood that this world is not a fair world. It's an unjust world. People are miserable. People are poor. People are sick. People are dying. This tyrannical government doesn't care. But written very, very heavy handedly. The Albán brothers do not appear to have English as a first language, so that could also play into this a little bit. But it just felt like some of the worst like 90s dialogue. If you're familiar with like comics from the 90s and sort of the grim dark era of expression, where everybody wanted to write for Vertigo, this is what it felt like. If you would put Rorschach Journal in a date entry before all of the word dialogue, then you would have definitely captured it. But I do wanted to illustrate some of the art. Like I said, I feel like the Albán brothers are very, very talented artists, though. Like I said, the sort of the cool dark tones really help with the art or the story and what they're trying to get across. So that is going to be my point of favor to this. Now, again, when we measure new number ones, we always look at, is this a good introduction to the main character? Is it a good introduction to the world? And is there enough meat on the bone here to keep me interested? We don't really know too much about the twin brothers, except that one seems to be a lot more ambitious and driven than the other. And we don't know much about the world except for how repeatedly over and over it is stated that everything sucks and is miserable and it's this tyrannical regime's fault. I don't really have much investment in the story. I'm not really going to recommend that you follow up with this. I think the Albán brothers talented artists. I think this could have used some tightening up, a little bit of more show, a little more don't tell, maybe advance the plot a little bit further into the first issue than what you gave us, because I really don't. I'm not invested. Our next comic for the week of June the 17th comes from Mad Cave Studios. It is Land of Never, written by Steve Orlando and illustrated by Miguel Mora. Steve Orlando has been getting a lot of work from Marvel Comics in particular in recent years. He's sort of your go-to Scarlet Witch writer. That being said, this is, if you can tell from the title, this is a take on Peter Pan. So this is sort of your, I don't want to call it typical or cliche, but it is becoming a trope of, let's take a fantasy or a fairy tale and really modernize it for an urban setting or a modern world, so to speak. So Land of Never follows a father who is a former cop, who is an alcoholic, whose daughter is abducted by a giant flying man. And after 6 months of being a suspect, the case has gone cold, and now he's driven to use all of his experience as a forensic scientist to solve the case on his own. That being said, I didn't really much care for the art here. The lettering, which was done by Micah Myers, I didn't care for either. Everybody talks in the sort of scratchy font that I feel like doesn't really capture a lot of character. And usually, when you see this, this is done to a scratchy font is usually done for the sake of a like a monster or a creature of some sort. And the writing here is another example of a lot of telling and not showing. This comic, like this whole issue 1, probably could have been done in 6 pages, and they could have pushed the story further along to hook the reader more. We do not see much of this character here on the top of the page in the baby mask, who I am led to assume is our Peter Pan character, who's a large hulking figure. So, we don't really see much of him. And the dad character is volatile and a drunk and not terribly likable. So I don't really want to follow his story, even though he's looking for his daughter. So yeah, are we introduced into the world? We do. It's a modern setting, so you don't have to worry too much about that. We introduce the main character. We spend the whole comic with him for the most part. And there's not really much there that I would really want to follow. And is there enough meat on the bone to keep the story going? I can't say that there is. So, unfortunately, it is like that sometimes. 2 weeks in a row, 2 busts, but it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now, though. Thank you very much for your time. If you haven't subscribed to us before, please check out the Smart Avengers. We're kind of a goofy, eclectic little group, and see what we have cooking. Until next time, though, my name is Corey. I'll see you guys later. Bye.